Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Zahara Devi, and I'm here with my friend Daniel Atreyu, a healer and transformational guide of 16 years exploring the realms of energy work, satsang, and ancient earth and spirit-based practices. He's created a healing method called soul tracking, where you can clear out blockages caused by emotional wounds and traumas, ancestral and family patterns, incarnations, soul contracts, negative energies, manipulative energies, and collective blueprints. Being based in Europe, he's hosting seminars, workshops, and one-on-one consultations to heal entanglements and to release blocks so that you can connect with your soul and inner power. Okay, so welcome. I'm here with Daniel Atreyu, a really dear friend of mine, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you about emotions and how they play a role in our life and how to heal with our emotions and the different ways that we can build a more empowering relationship with emotions.
Yeah, happy that we had the time together here.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm curious because I generally only know a little bit about how emotions kind of show up in my life, and I'm curious on how you would describe where emotions come from.
Wow, that's a really wide range of answering possibilities. So, yeah, but it's just like, I think emotions just happen by life itself. So because we are like perceiving beings, so we are in connection with people, with the surroundings, and some things that come to us and affect us create some resonance or some energy movements. And I guess that's one side of what is emotion. It's the this signature how you are moved by life. And we are all the time moved by something, so emotions are always there, hopefully. So as long as you're not totally closed to this area of perception, but even if you don't feel them, they are there.
Right.
So the difference is if you can recognize them, then you have the possibility to act more consciously with it, or you are driven by them. So no matter what you do, they are here because we are alive and life is moving. So life is not like stucking and sitting and waiting. So it's like,
yeah, definitely. I like how you mentioned that they are the things that move us. And I feel like that's really beautiful because I kind of feel into what emotions are for me, and I feel like they are a form of energy that kind of compiles into a place and creates this outcome, which could either be like sadness or anger or happiness. And that's like the energy kind of compiling into one space that creates that, within my body and within my perception of life and how I'm experiencing it.
Yeah, it's like the responding. It's like if life is asking you a question, the emotion is your answer to something. And also in all this energetical healing work, it's so fascinating that you can always take this emotion, or most of the time, and you can go deeper. There are several levels, and it's really beautiful art to dive into deeper until you're more close to the root of what's going on here.
Right.
Because, for example, there might be a level where you're really angry. And also anger is a really beautiful expression of maybe someone disrespected my space, or I'm really overloaded, or I have to really say something because it came not across. It might be that there is a really deep sadness or also this overload beneath the anger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And normally it's so healing if we in our conversations have the possibility to dive deeper,
Mm.
because then I can tell you what's really going on in me.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you're confronted with my surface, it's not so easy to respond or to feel me
Yeah.
or to feel you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So you mentioned like layers, and I'm curious on how would you describe that to someone who maybe is new to this concept, and how they would be able to identify the different layers of how emotions touch ourselves, and maybe how that connects to our body.
That's I guess a very beautiful example is just take pain.
Mm.
So if you have pain at a
Mm.
certain part of your body and you feel it, and
Yeah.
a normal response sometimes is it, oh my God, there is pain, I want to have it gone.
Yeah. That's usually the immediate response.
So, yeah,
Like, yeah,
so
I don't want this pain, suffering, take it away.
sure, it's bothering me. So I have
Yeah.
pain in my leg, I cannot walk normally. So I'm just like fucked because it's like disturbing my normal flow.
Uh,
But most of the time, really, if you feel deeper into the pain, you will feel an emotional layer, what's beneath this pain.
mm.
And there are several possibilities. So maybe we can talk about them later if I first mention how you can go into the deeper levels.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I guess pain is a really good example for
Mm-hmm.
us to train to go deeper.
Mm-hmm.
But the same way I found out for myself, you can use for your emotions. And it is about, at the first instant, you feel something, even if it's anger or pain or loneliness, whatever, you can dive deeper. But the key door or your access portal is, first you have to make peace with what arises.
Mm.
So maybe it's a good picture. So it's really exhausting to dive into wavy water. So you maybe will not dive deep because it's always like pushing you up again. So first of all, you need like really silent water, and then you can dive deep and see clearly what is there.
Mm-hmm.
And what I figured out last summer, that's also part of my new healing method, it's if I feel something, at the same moment, I talk to the feeling. It's like, okay, pain, here we are.
Mm.
So beautiful that you show up. So and in this moment, that the blockage is responding because it's seen. And then you can say, beautiful that you show up, or thank you for showing up. I see you, I feel you, I hear you, and I open my heart for you.
Yeah.
And that's the diving deeper.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's totally interesting because, yeah, it feels like, or it seems like a lot of the things that we tend to notice are the more challenging emotions, or the challenging sensations, which are the more painful experiences, and they tend to imprint like very strongly in the body and in people's like presence. So I'm wondering like what generally creates pain for people.
Generally, it's always interesting to talk about general assumptions because there's so many possibilities. So, but
Right.
we can take. I'm a fan
Yeah.
of examples.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Give
but
me just like, I'm curious on what kind of examples you would share.
imagine, like I really like to talk about the body because it's very obvious
Mm.
if something changes or gets out of balance in your body.
Right.
So, and just feel like someone. I don't know how to call him, Leo or Sandra, I don't know. So someone has problems with her or his spine. So like pain in the spine. And energetically, you can sense that the spine is like significant for your own center, that you show up, that you stand your ground, that you speak your truth, but mostly really that you show up. So I am here. Even there's something uncomfortable or I'm not sure about what I feel, I show it. But if you, for example, have some child issues with like, how you call it, like if someone is smashing you, like
Using you?
with abuse or something, or like brutality in your childhood. So maybe you have learned that it's not really good to show up because it's dangerous,
Right.
for your surviving. And so you will not show up, because in this moment it was the best choice to don't do it, because you will not serve yourself, your nervous system, you're surviving. So you hold back. And you hold back, and maybe you start to get shy, maybe you start to feel guilt. And with everything you hold back, your spine is like going like smaller, because you kind of try to protect something. And so it's really with the most, it's very complicated to say that in a video chat, because in Germany, so you don't really allow to talk about health issues are related to emotional issues. So they are really straight laws. So
Like in the medical system?
yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay. Yeah.
It's really like, so we can say, or for me, I started to play it like this. So maybe these emotions can affect your body. So in the law, what I figured out as energetical healer, most of the time I see that body issues are really deeply connected to emotional issues.
Yeah.
It's not always the only reason, because sometimes there are toxins in the body, whatever. But the emotions are a very big part of how your body works, because everybody wants energy. So if you're here to act with your hands, but you're not acting, so maybe you get pain in your fingers, because this part of your consciousness, energy, being is not lived.
Yeah. It's almost like you haven't showed up for the things that haven't been, almost like the muscles that you haven't stretched before. If you're not connecting and building a relationship with those muscles, then they're not going to function in a balanced way, or in a way that will be in service to you. So that makes sense in the same way as how emotions, like if you build a relationship with your emotions and start to understand what kind of ways that the emotions show up, then you're able to start utilizing the emotions in a way that are going to be in service for you in your life. That sounds like what I'm hearing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's so cool.
And what maybe it's also interesting, what I figured out years ago is like, we as consciousness, we need our body to really find the way.
Yeah.
So because if I took the time to sit down and channel the meaning of every body part. So what does it mean energetically, and what is it there for, which part of life it will express?
Oh, that's so cool.
And it's like a map. It's like a map where you can look at, okay, pain in my leg, in my knee. What's the significant issue behind it?
Is that the same for most body types, or is it just specifically for your body type? Like, are they different for everyone?
No, it's like in this area it's the same.
Okay.
Because you have a shoulder and I have a shoulder, and so for human blueprint, this part of shoulder has a significant like acting space or area in life.
That's so cool. Yeah.
And so therefore it's really beautiful, because seen from consciousness, we will not really find the way, but the body will show you, like, look here, this part of your life, there is a disbalance. And so with these body parts, we have the chance to see more clearly which topic will show up or what it's all about.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Because it's almost like emotions are a state of consciousness, or that there is consciousness within every single emotion. Emotions are almost like living, breathing entities or energies that are existing and within all of us, that are universally connected to each other. So that's super interesting how you mentioned that. I love how you mentioned that.
And it's so beautiful in the moment when I have my inner sight, I really feel that emotions are the fuel of life. So there is the power of our life is in emotions, because where else?
Right.
So if we don't access our emotions, we will not be very alive.
Yeah.
Then we will sit like here and talk like that.
Very monotone. Yeah, totally. Totally. That makes total sense. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And it makes me wonder, like, how we can start to, even like, for someone that maybe wants to start to recognize what emotions are and how they play a role in their sense of empowerment, or being able to move through life in more harmony. And you mentioned earlier around, like, alleviating pain or suffering by being able to recognize.
Alleviating? I didn't catch you.
Yeah, alleviating means like to sort of eliminate.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So like by recognizing emotions and how they can start to eliminate, or at least alleviate pain and suffering in someone's life. I'm wondering, how can someone start to learn to access that for themselves?
Oh yeah, very interesting. And it's so fascinating that I feel with a lot of questions to emotions, it's so complex. Sometimes some things are so simple to say, but the range is so complex because there is so much going on in this area. But let's look at it, and I guess you will also ask some questions so we can maybe navigate through all this. What I figured out is my aim of liberation into life. What I found out is like to enlarge my feeling capacity. For me, that's the only way of feeling free in life, because I cannot say I just want to feel good emotions. So, and I have really tried it. So I've really tried it. I've worked on it with energetical healing methods, years and years, and journeying, inner journeys. It doesn't work out. So it was not working out. And so what I figured out, it's really to expand this, maybe call it emotional muscles, to be aware, to stand your ground with more and more emotions that show up. And it's really beautiful, but at the same moment, the more you enlarge, the more emotions come in access to you. So it's like, but it's maybe also what a teacher of mine said. It's like, love is fathomless. And the more you love, the more things come into your field that won't receive this love. And so it's like, the more you grow, the wider fields will come and will just, they want to have balance and peace.
No, because it seems like in the moment, if someone is experiencing a really intense, strong emotion, like anger, maybe, that it almost would seem like it automatically is on this trajectory of expansion, and like you feeling more and more into that. But it's almost like it's really hard to almost like be able to pinpoint exactly the root of that emotion within the moment if someone's experiencing a really strong, maybe even painful encounter. And so, yeah, just wondering about like how they would be able to start to expand that emotional muscle by like holding a sense of presence and awareness.
Yeah, totally.
With also then being able to simultaneously still feel the emotion, but not get carried away and like almost like have the emotion being the controlling aspect of the dynamic.
Yeah, so beautiful that you mentioned to don't go away. And so I would love to share with you, and maybe later we can talk about maybe a possibility to release some emotions which are not yours.
Yeah.
So because I'm really happy to share that with you in this possibility we have. It's my same answer to what I mentioned before. It's like if you feel any emotion, it's like welcome it. And say it's like more like this childlike scientific view that like, okay, wow, what's going on here? Like this interest and the ability to feel surprised yourself. What's going on in your system? Because most of the time we cannot change what we feel. So it's just appearing, it's coming up, and we can just be excited to figure it out, to learn more about my system, to learn more about my response to the world. And so one is for me this, I open my heart for you. If I feel anger, I just feel into it, say, anger, welcome. I open my heart for you. It's more like this, it's like a meditative invitation. Maybe I call it like that. And then you will see how it works. And what's also very interesting for me, because you said to don't go away means we need presence. And that's the key. Because if we have presence with even wider ranges of emotions, we are in the center.
Yeah.
We are centered, even if we don't feel centered.
Right.
So I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and she asked me, so if I think that it's realistic that we can always be in balance with our emotions. And I don't think so. I don't think that we can always be in balance, but even if I'm not in balance, I can be centered in feeling that I'm not in my balance.
Yeah.
And also, I had a very deep insight in my men's circle group. It was one day, and I felt really unclear. So, and in the check-in, we were all checking in, and I shared that, hey guys, today I feel really unclear. And the feedback of my men was that they have never felt me so clearly.
Really?
So, and isn't that fascinating? Yeah. That if someone is really owning what he's feeling, he's clear.
Right.
Because if you say to me, I need something, but I don't know what it is, you're totally clear that you're unclear.
Yeah.
So and then you are connected with yourself. So, and that's what I figure out is a very good key to be honest what's going on here and present.
Yeah, definitely.
And what I figured out, it's really helpful, is the words I have to translate it in my mind. Yeah, I am here. Because when I was looking out of consciousness into presence, I found this words being the most persuasive thing you can say out of truth. Because I am here. Yes, I can confirm that because I am here. And so I guided a lot of people in my courses and seminars to meditate on this sentence or wordings.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
To bring yourself back into the center of presence.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And also a good way, but I think you also do that and know that, is like to express it. Because in the moment something appears, I open my heart for whatever appears. I activate my presence, and then I maybe feel if something wants to be moved or screamed out.
Mm.
or maybe also if I miss something or I miss somebody, then maybe afterwards I call. So
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
if I feel something it's not really, or I feel in a relationship something is not clear and I feel something has to be said now, so maybe then I speak up.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how that, like, just having the presence and the centeredness within being able to experience what you're feeling in the moment gives a lot of personal power, and also can be really serving to relationships. And I also recognize that a lot of people have a lot of inhibitions to express their emotions, like in the moment. Like, it's almost like there's a lot of fear in their emotions or what their emotions mean. So I'm curious on if you can speak to that a little bit, because I'd love for people to understand a little bit more about why people fear their emotions, or at least expressing them.
First, what I feel really clearly is sometimes it really helps to just speak it out loud. So maybe we can also talk afterwards to how you can feel yourself better, so how you can get access to it, because maybe that's the first step. But the second step we talk now is, at the moment you feel something, just speak it out. So like, I am now, so I feel lucky to meet you. So in this conversation I feel maybe a little bit heady. It's always when I talk about some things, and it's also in English today. So, and that helps a lot if you feel something and then you speak it out. Just with no sentence, if you feel anger, you can say anger. If you feel ecstatic freedom and joy, just say it, ecstatic joy, because then you're connected to what appears and you own your truth, because you're respectful to what shows up and you give it space to that it gets expression through your system in the world. Because if you speak it, it's in the world, it's not kept in your system.
Mm-hmm.
I found that really helpful.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
And the trick and the trap at the same moment is, if you feel something, just say the emotion and stop at the point you're going to add the story.
Okay. So
And
what's
that's not easy.
yeah. What would you describe the story being? Like, how would you describe a story to someone?
The story begins in the moment when you start in your head figuring out why you are feeling this at the moment. Then the story starts.
Yeah.
Because it seems like we have a lack of ability to just feel without knowing what's going on or where does it come from. So as we are really heady in our society and everything needs to have a reason, so we try to search, and we will always find something, no matter if this answer is true or not. So I'm angry because, yes, somebody said something, or if I got go back in my story because my parents didn't saw me. So you will always find a reason. And don't misunderstand me. Sometimes it's good to reflect some things and to put the puzzle pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's really useful to just allow your emotion to be an emotion.
Yeah.
And let reveal it. Because we are coming to a very, very important or also very fascinating thing is emotion is like the movement in your system. And for me, the aim of the emotion is that it will be seen and expressed. In the moment you start to journeying into the reason or the story, you stop it. Because you want to understand it or you want to prevent it. So you disinterrupt the process of, like, what's the English word? If you open something?
Yeah, unravel.
Unravel.
Yeah, I really like how you mentioned that, because I often notice in conversations with people that when there's an emotion that comes up, like sadness, for example, that my brain or my, like, me as a person will want to try to identify why I'm feeling that emotion, why I'm feeling that sadness. And so I'll try to search for a story that will justify why I'm feeling that way. And often that can lead to, like, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes if it's really strong, I might try and it might link to judgment or blame or these sort of like ways of finding out like why I'm feeling suffering, like why sadness to me is like creating this sort of heart pain or this like sort of emotional pain in my life. And so most of the time I'll want to try and search for the reason as to why that's being caused. And the moment I feel that emotion, and instead of thinking about and reflecting too much on it, and I instead choose to move my body or do some sort of like shaking or like throwing something at a pillow or going out for a walk and just like growling and screaming, whatever that is, or even if it's just like allowing myself to cry and grieve for 20 minutes, like that to me, it kind of gets to the root of the emotion, and it allows the emotion to exist, but then it's not like given the power to override my life I'm able to then express it and be with it, be present for it, really see it and acknowledge it. And then it starts to just automatically like diffuse or fizz away. Like it almost is like it just softens, and I soften as a being. I don't create then a lot of defenses or hardness in response to the way that emotion is impacting me or how I'm experiencing that emotion in my life. And then I'm able to get more clarity to why that emotion exists when that emotion has had a chance to exist and be expressed and not given so much attachment to the story that I'm creating around it. It's like I can able to see the truth of the emotion when I've
after
expressing it. Yeah, and so that's really awesome that it seems like you guide people into your sessions, or what it sounds like you're mentioning before, that's part of like the blueprint of how you get people to recognize their emotions and how they can start noticing the patterns, their own subconscious patterns, or their sense of being able to identify themselves with their stories and the way that they relate to the energy that they experience in life, that consciousness of their emotions.
Wow, that's a big topic. So as you mentioned, also this subconsciousness with all our patterns, and so it's a really wide range.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's all interconnected, right?
Yeah, totally. Because it's the emotions. They are also they express also your patterns. So and they bring consciousness to it and energy into the field. And I figured out that a really essential key of life, so if it's for relationships or people or emotions, the key is to be seen. And it seems so deeply that the biggest wish in our human hearts is to be seen just as you are in this moment. And it's the same for our emotions. No matter where they come from, they want to be seen and they want to be expressed. Sometimes it's enough to just feel them and see them, and they can reveal. And sometimes if they are stuck too much, so they call for an action, and they call you to go out in the woods, scream at the top of your lungs. I don't know how you can say that.
Yeah. Well, what alongside that, like I noticed that happening when I remember going to Vipassana like a few years back, and it was on day 6 of the 11 day Vipassana meditation. And I remember just sitting there, and all of a sudden I started feeling this like intense sort of nagging, throbbing pain in my trapezius, or like in my shoulder. And it was just like, it was getting louder and stronger and stronger. And I wasn't even doing or thinking about anything. I was just sitting with my body and just sitting there.
6 days.
Yeah. So like, but it was so intense. It almost felt like someone was pulling a tendon of muscle inside my shoulder and like stretching it outside of my body. It was really painful. And I was feeling like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on with my body? Like, this is so intense. And I just started to breathe with it. And in Vipassana meditation, you do lots of body scans, and you body scan and you scan yourself on different sensations that arise. So when they say that when those sensations arise, for you to bring your presence and your attention to it, and that's all you do is just bring your attention to it. And so what I did was I focused on that sensation, that really strong sensation. And I noticed that I started feeling angry. There wasn't any sort of story or image. I was just really angry that I was experiencing this feeling. And then I wanted to go deeper. I was like, okay, well, why do I feel angry at this sensation? It's just a sensation. Like, if I was just to purely take away my judgments around whether it's good or bad, and just see it purely as a state of energy, what is that? And so I asked it. I started having this conversation, like as you're mentioning earlier, like a dialogue with this sensation in my body and this anger. And I actually realized that it was attached to, I started seeing images pop up, and it was images of like a previous relationship that I was in, and that created a lot of like fear and anxiety and anger and just sort of like all this intensity. And I realized that it was actually that point in my life where I was in that relationship, that whatever I experienced in that moment, that emotion and that experience got stuck in the cellular memory of that part of my body. And it lived as this unresolved, unseen state of being that would show up as anger, that I didn't even realize that it was so linked together.
Wow.
And it's so fascinating how that works, that these emotions and these aspects of our life like live in the cells of our body. And sometimes even trauma will show up and they start living in cells of our body. And it was so beautiful, because how I healed that was, as you were mentioning and throughout this whole talk, is just being present with it, saying, okay, I welcome you. Like, I'm here for you. I'm here. Like, I want to be here with you. Like, you're my friend. Like, starting to see my emotions as a friend. And what happened was the images started changing to this like elderly person on their deathbed. And I was this little child showing up and holding its hand as it was like starting to feel like it could be seen and acknowledged. And then after that imagery, and after that moment of me really seeing it for what it really was, the sensation dissipated. It disappeared. And I felt like
the whole pain was gone.
The whole pain was gone, at least until like, you know, it wanted to show up again. But it was almost like I didn't have to do any like massaging to it. I didn't have to like do anything aside from just bring my awareness to it.
Isn't that fascinating?
So
at the moment, if we all have the possibility to go deeper, it's such a big gift.
Yeah.
And I can really tell until now, most of my body pains and things which were not working out, until now I could get them with all my feeling into it, energetical healing methods. So there was nothing really harmful for my body. Until now, it was all energetical blockages I could solve without operation or something. Sometimes I took some herb teas with healing plants for sure, because it's also good to like give the body some things he needs, or it needs, you say in English.
Yeah.
I just don't like to talk about my body with it. It sounds so unpersonal.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier in the conversation around ways that people could start bringing more consciousness to these ways that the emotions show up, in different ways to like navigate the levels of that, and with practices. And I'm curious if you would like to share some of those.
Yeah, totally. I'm in.
Great.
There are a lot of different methods on this planet from different lineages and techniques. I can share today what turned out to be for me the most useful way. So there is one way you can like welcome everything that you feel. So for me, it's going more in this direction of satsang. So something appears and you bless it with love. So and then you start to get in connection with it and widening your range of feelings. What for me turned out to be the most useful way is to distinguish very clearly. At the moment something appears in my system, I ask my intuition if this emotion or feeling is mine or not. Because it turned out to be a really great, it has a great impact if it's not mine or if it is mine. Because we have to see, it depends on how sensitive you are. So, because sometimes all these layers come in our fields of the ancestral line, of the collective field, maybe also of people who are close to us, our neighbors, the land we live on, the country we live in, maybe also the continent, so everything. And I figured out that in the moment when I feel something, if I feel something strong, you know, I don't sit every time when I feel something to distinguish, but if I feel something really heavy and harsh and narrow and you say tender, if something is, yes, that's the word, okay. If I feel something like that, I take the time to just tune in to the feeling, and then I ask my intuition, is this my emotion, yes or no? And then I get the first impulse. So if you're waiting until the second or third impulse, you're mostly in your head. So just ask your system, ask your energy system to respond intuitively. And for me, if I figure out it's not mine, I just say, I see you, and I confirm that you are not mine, and I let you go, or I let go of you. And in this moment, a lot of emotions disappear. So you need a little bit more technical details, because sometimes you need to adjust some more things that it's totally going, but that's the main thing. You check in. Is it mine? Yes or no? If it's not, you let it go. So also the first step of acknowledging it. So I see you. Thank you that you show up, but I can clearly see that you are not mine. So I let go of you. And sometimes I add the sentence that you can find healing where you can be healed.
Oh, I like that.
Because I saw in one consultation with a client, I got the sentence that you cannot heal something in you which is not caused by you.
Yeah.
So, and therefore sometimes we try to clear and heal all this ancestral stuff, ancestor stuff, and it also works out over years but sometimes, and I found that in my healing work so wow, so exciting, that I see that at some topics I was working on before sessions and 10, 15 sessions for one topic. If I look at it from nowadays energy, I see people carry that. They ask for themselves, is it mine? Intuition say no, and then say, okay, just be loving with it and let it go. Then I can see really heavy backpacks and topics. They get released in an instant. So I've never seen that before. Sometimes it's like, and you're free. And people feel that. They feel like they have thrown their garbage away or their backpacks.
Yeah.
So they feel like bigger, lighter, they feel joy. Because we don't have to carry all that stuff. It's for me, it's an illusion that we have to carry all of that and that we can carry all of that.
Right.
So it's not making sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the second part is, if I feel that something belongs to me, I just do what I was sharing with you before. So I welcome it and I say I open my heart totally for it, for you, for the emotion, and then it gets integrated. So if it's not mine, I let it go. And if I feel it's mine, I start the integration, because it wants to be integrated here in this system.
Yeah. And when you say integration, like how would someone do that?
Just opening your heart for what you feel and breathe. Because breathing is the energy, and opening your heart is the invitation.
Right.
So it's like the emotion is knocking at your door, and to saying I open my heart for you, it's like you're opening the door.
Right.
And you say hello, and breathing, it's maybe to take someone in.
Yeah.
So don't let it stand in front of your door, which you have already opened. Just say, come in.
Yeah.
Let's have a cup of tea or a glass of wine, whatever. So,
yeah, that's very Rumi-esque of you. That reminds me of Rumi. I think there's a poem somewhere in his books where he mentions that everything that shows up at your door I'm not saying the direct quote, but on the lines of everything that shows up at your door, like treat them like a guest in your house, because you never know what kind of treasure or value someone has to give.
Yeah, so beautifully said. Rumi has really beautiful quotes. They're so touching.
Yeah, totally.
So wise and deep.
Yeah. Well, this has been such a joy to have such an amazing, deep conversation with you today. And I'm so grateful that you've been here and you're able to share your wisdom with the world. It's so fascinating.
Thank you so much for the platform.
Yeah, of course. And I'm curious, how would people find you if they wanted to learn more about your offerings and what you do, and if you have any specific offerings that you're working on right now that you want people to know about?
So maybe I don't know what's your, so if you can just write my homepage somewhere.
Yeah, on the link, I'll probably link it to the bio below.
Okay. On my homepage, you can find me. My main offers are in German, but I started to transcript my homepage also into English.
Yeah.
So there are some offers, especially the one-on-one consultations are in English. And my new healing method, soul tracking, I will just write the next day's the landing page. So in 3 or 4 weeks, it's also on.
Oh, wonderful.
And in soul tracking, the main methods we talked about today, it's like to open your heart for whatever appears and then distinguish. So that's the main points of the technique, but there sometimes you need to add some more details, because sometimes it's like, okay, you see it, you let it go, it goes. But sometimes you just have to adjust something and feel deeper what's needed, what is needed to let it go, or to get more clear about what's going on here. So just have a look at the homepage. I guess it's the best. My YouTube channel, unfortunately, is mostly in German until now.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Great. Well, wonderful. I am excited to share with people more of your work. And yeah, it's so good to see you.